Therapy Talks with Shir Hever, who we're so happy to have from BDS International. Just a quick few housekeeping items. Sorry, hopefully you can hear me. If you couldn't hear me before, my name's Elon, I'm with BDS. Thank you so much for coming out. Just quick housekeeping items. We will be recording this event. As you can see, that phone right there, we'll be taking video. So if you're in the audience, you won't be on the video, but just know that, for instance, if you ask a question in the Q&A, like your voice might be part of it. And that video, I think we're planning on putting on YouTube and also linking that on our social medias so that it would be pretty widely available. The exit is just up the stairs to the right. You also see exit sign right there. Bathrooms, all gender restrooms are located right outside of those doors right there. And yeah, we just wanted to thank First Unitarian Church so much for letting us use this space. We're really glad to be here. We also wanted to thank all of our co-sponsors, Not on Our Dime campaign, who just submitted all their petitions. As well as Green Party of Allegheny County, PSL, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, Pittsburgh JVP, FOSNA, PSC, the Palestine Solidarity Committee, Pittsburgh BSA, Communist Party of USA, and UE, United Electrical Workers of the Eastern Region. And representatives from those groups may make very brief remarks at the conclusion of tonight's events. Thank you to all of our supporters and friends who brought food, especially a big thank you to Filios for the grape leaves. Thank you so much for your generosity if anyone's here from Filios. Yeah, we're super thrilled that you're all here. We and a bunch of our co-sponsors have some literature at the table on the back. So there's a petition in the effort to make Pittsburgh a sanctuary city. You can also find different pamphlets and zines from our work at the Helmet Accountability Project, challenging the local company Helmet's complicity in the genocide in Gaza and throughout historic Palestine. We also have copies of the New York War Crimes. I'm not going to hold it up very well, but the New York War Crimes newspaper put together by our comrades with Writers Against the War on Gaza. And yeah, we've got a bunch of other different pamphlets and zines back there, so please check out our literature, take some food before you go. And yeah, thank you so much for coming out. We really appreciate it. It's really exciting to see everyone here. And I will pass it over to Emily, who will do our land acknowledgement and introduce our speaker.
This is so wonderful. We keep having to go out into the hallway and get more chairs. Great to see everyone. We've come tonight, sorry, I'm in a separate room, to hear how we might slow or stop the supply of weapons being used in a displacement and a genocide of an indigenous people 6,000 miles from here. But here, indigenous people were also displaced and suffered genocide. The Lenape, the Shawnee, and many tribes of the Haudenosaunee Federation. I'm sorry, I'm out of breath from moving chairs. Forced off of their lands east of here, the great displacement that is part of our own legacy of colonialism and genocide. That displacement and genocide are echoed in the names of Palestinian villages whose people in 1948 were displaced to Gaza, where that genocide continues. And though 1948 is within the lifetime of some of us here, I know one at least, 1960, within my lifetime, is a more recent displacement of the Seneca people who lived where the waters of the then newly constructed Kinzawood Dam and Reservoir, just north of here, flooded their villages forever. So let's be a part of creating a society committed to the truth of our pasts and the challenges of our future. And I want to introduce someone who hopefully will point us in that direction. Dr. Shir Hever grew up in Israel, now lives in Germany, and is visiting in the US for a couple of weeks. He's a political economist, has been writing for about 2 decades about the effect of the Israeli occupation in Palestine, is a member of Jewish Voices for a Just Peace in the Middle East, and is the directing manager for the Alliance of Justice between Israelis and Palestinians. And I'm very happy to say that he is the International Military Embargo Coordinator for the Boycott National Committee. So please, a good welcome for.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. I apologize that I have to take my mask off. I don't have Elon and Emily's ability to speak so clearly in English so that you understand me. So I hope now everything is clear. Yeah, I'm very excited to see so many people coming. This is a very good sign, and this is my first time in Pittsburgh, and it's a very warm and welcome that I'm getting here. I appreciate it very much. Warm, yeah. The people are warm. So I'm going to speak for about 30 minutes, then we'll open for questions. I want to start by acknowledging that this is a time where people are understandably very concerned, very scared with Trump's presidency here in the United States, and we see the rise of fascism and the far right and racism. And in this moment, it seems maybe that the Palestine solidarity movement is in a very difficult phase. But I see it differently. I think that because the Trump administration is going after every minority, attacking in every direction, then now more than ever, there is a need and a desire for an intersectional movement of all the different groups that are feeling this oppression. And I think I'm also seeing that groups that have been active on various progressive issues, but haven't been active on Palestine, are now waking up and saying Palestine is an issue that unites us all. So I think this is a moment for us to build this movement more than ever. And I know that I am very biased because within the BDS movement, my role is to coordinate the military embargo campaign. So I'm going to talk about the military embargo a lot. I don't want to create the impression as if other campaigns for Palestinian solidarity are not important. So please don't get that message, but just because I'm focusing so much on the military embargo. But we do have also to acknowledge the fact that this genocide has been committed with US weapons. Now, Israel is known around the world as one of the biggest exporter of weapons. It is the biggest exporter of weapons per capita. So, which is maybe not a very useful way to measure weapons exports per capita, because not all Israelis are arms dealers. But number 2 in the world is the United States, but Israel has more weapon exports compared to the population size than the United States. And overall in the world, something between number 7 and number 14. The number changes over the years. But in an overall trajectory that Israel is becoming a bigger and bigger arms exporter. But what kind of weapons are they exporting? They're exporting for mostly the weapons of oppression, tools of controlling civilians. Because the last time that the Israeli military fought a conventional war against another army was 1973. And I'm going to say something about this war in a minute. But since then, the only experience the Israeli military has, and all the weapons that are developed are being tested on an occupied population under a military occupation, under conditions of apartheid. So what are they making? They're making the surveillance drones, they're making the facial recognition cameras, they're making the software that mines data, data mining, biometric surveillance, spyware, which hacks our phones and enters our social media accounts, activates our phones remotely in order to gather information against us. All of these tools are a threat to all of us, wherever we may be. But when the genocide started, these tools were not the right tools from the Israeli point of view for committing mass murder on such a scale of a genocide. And in order to destroy the Gaza Strip, to kill tens of thousands of people, to maim, injure, and destroy the houses, the infrastructure, they used the 155 millimeter bombs, shells, artillery shells. They used the MK-84 bombs, and these, and also artillery ammunition, naval artillery ammunition, Hellfire missiles that are fired from helicopters. All of these kinds of ammunition are made here in the United States. The US is the biggest provider of these weapons to Israel. Number 2 is Germany, but the US is also the only one that provides these weapons free of charge. So it's with your taxpayer money that these weapons are financed and go to Israel and used to commit genocide against Palestinians, which makes it such a relevant topic for us here. I hope that I've convinced you that it's worth giving some thought and some time to the military embargo and what we can do about it. And even so, moving on to point number 2, which is how do we do a military embargo campaign? We have in the BDS movement developed very clear guidelines of how to build a campaign. And we want our campaigns to be effective, we want our campaigns to be sustainable, we want our campaigns to be ethical. And usually all these 3 things we just put together under one headline and we call them strategic. So when I'm saying strategic action, I mean action that is ethical, sustainable, and effective. Which means, for example, that even if we are furious and sad and we have very strong emotions about what is happening, which is completely understandable, I have those emotions myself. But we must never allow those emotions to drag us into not strategic action. We must never, for example, create direct action or organize direct action against the arms industry in such a way where the activists, the members of our movement, don't know what risk they will be facing. Being strategic means that we talk with our own movement, we're always loyal to our own movement, and we tell people, we were planning maybe to have some strategic action, a sit-in, for example, in front of an arms company, but maybe the police will come and arrest people. And you shouldn't participate if you're not comfortable and if you don't know what are the risks ahead of you. So the BDS movement is not against direct action, but it is only for strategic direct action. And also get your lawyers lined up ahead of time. Make sure that you have contact in real time with the lawyers when you're organizing these kinds of actions. Make sure that you plan what kind of oppression might come from the police or from other authorities, and no one should be surprised. No one should find themselves in a situation where they thought they're going to do something for Palestine and they end up paying a price they were not ready to pay from the beginning. And even if it means that the actions are a little bit slow at first, and even if sometimes we feel frustrated that we're only taking these actions like a quiet vigil with holding signs on the sidewalk where the police tells us that's where you can stand. But this is how you build a sustainable movement. And so it's the loyalty to the movement, it's being strategic, but what does it mean being effective? It means that you have to imagine. You have to imagine all the steps and plan in advance how you're going to take a movement from the very beginning to victory. It's not about expressing just our outrage, which is important. It's important that we feel the outrage, it's important to express the outrage, but just expressing outrage is not going to stop the genocide. It's not going to stop the weapons. What will stop them is if we build the movement from the grassroots, from groups like I see here today, moving on from the grassroots movement to the civil society level, to the churches, and we are here in a church, unions, academia. That's the second level. And the third level